Hey folks, Malforian here, and welcome back to the channel. Today's the launch of Legacy of Persia, the latest flavor pack for Crusader Kings 3, and in the first video I'm going to be doing covering the DLC launch. We're going to be looking at the achievements that have been announced today. There are 10 achievements that have been added, the same I think as the last flavor pack in Iberia, and a good mix. There are a few that are on the same kind of theme, which we're going to cover later on. Overall, I just want to cover what the achievements are, and then as always, have a little discussion down below. Are there any of these achievements you're going to be working on? Which ones do you think you'll have to actually focus to complete, and which ones do you think, as always with these achievement videos, that you can just kind of complete by just playing the game? And there are definitely some in here that you won't really have to put much effort into. But I'm not going to keep you long today, so let's just get straight into it. So the first ones here are easy achievements. The first is Rich in Diversity. As a character of a faith with a jizya or tax non-believers doctrines, have 10 vassals of other faiths. I think this one is pretty easy, especially if you are playing as the Abbasids or, you know, one of these larger realms that can have this faith and these doctrines, because if you're playing the Abbasids, you can just take over the Byzantines, basically. And then if you're having most of the Byzantine dukes and counts as your vassals, then they're obviously going to be Orthodox, and then you'll get this relatively easily. You could also, I suppose, once you've formed like the Empire of Persia or reformed Bactria or something, you could head east into India, and you'd probably relatively quickly pick up 10 vassals as well. It definitely is one of these that you can pick up without really putting much thought into it. Especially at the end of a campaign, you can just pick up a couple of vassals and get this relatively easily. The next one is Abbasid Might. Take the renewed Caliphate ending in the Iranian intermezzo struggle. This is one of the 3 endings. Now, the one thing I will say about these achievements is, funnily enough, 4 of them are based on these 3 struggle endings, because one of the struggle endings can end in 2 different ways. So there are technically 4 endings to the struggle, and then this is the first one we encounter, which is the renewed Caliphate. This one is relatively easy to do. It's not that difficult. Again, it's one that if you're just kind of playing in the Iranian area and you're having a relatively successful campaign, you're probably going to be able to do this struggle, or it's not too difficult, just kind of aiming towards it. Is it easy? I'm not too sure. It could have been medium maybe, but I think easy is fine. It isn't going to be too difficult for you to finish. If you take a look at the requirements for Renewed Caliphate, which I will put up on the screen at the moment, they aren't too difficult. You should be able to do it without too much of an issue, I would think. And then the last easy one is Royal Flush. As a character of a faith with a Fedayeen doctrine, dispose of a lowborn, a king, and an emperor. So the Fedayeen doctrine, this allows you to have the Master of Assassins core position, and then the Fedayeen doctrine also basically buffs all your offensive schemes. So disposing of these 3 tiers of characters really shouldn't be that difficult. This one's probably the easiest one, because you can basically just start doing it straight away. And if you start with a character with high intrigue, this shouldn't be too hard. The lowborn one should be easy. A king isn't that difficult, and an emperor might be the one that gives you a little bit of trouble, but again, you just got to roll the dice, and in the end, you'll just fluke it out of nothing else. You know, even if it's 5%, in the end, you're going to fluke it and kill an emperor. So this one, relatively easy, especially compared to the other 2. This one should be like super very easy, because it is literally just try kill people, and in the end, you'll make it. You do have to have the Fedayeen doctrine, but again, that's not that difficult. And then we're on to hard ones straight away. There's no in between. It's just easy to hard, and then there are some very hard ones later on. And then this one is Iranian Revival. Take the Iranian Resurgence ending in the Iranian intermezzo struggle. Again, I'll put the requirements on the screen for you to look through. This one is harder than the first one. Obviously, it is a hard achievement. You do have to become exalted amongst men. You do need to own 30% of the Persian Empire, but if you're playing in this area of the map, that shouldn't be that difficult. Probably something you're going to work towards anyway. You need to have 2 Iranian allies, which is the easier of the 2 options. The other one is to have at least 40 counties of Iranian heritage. That one's probably a little bit harder, but again, neither of them are that difficult. And then at least 60% of involved or interloper counts or higher share the Iranian heritage. Although this one is harder than the first one, again, it's not too difficult, to be honest. You just need to be working towards getting those requirements, and you'll get it, I think, relatively easily. I don't think it's too difficult, that one. And then the next one, we're on to the meme titles already. All your caliphate are belong to us. Take the Dominate the Caliph Foundation as part of the Abbasid Humiliation ending in the Iranian intermezzo struggle. This is the one I was talking about, where there's technically 2 endings to the same struggle ending, where you can take 2 different decisions in a way. And this one is actually, I think, harder than the previous one. You have got to get a few more requirements. Again, I'll put them on the screen here. You need to be illustrious. You need to completely control Samarra. You also need to take Baghdad, or at least imprison or have a strong hook on the leader of the Abbasids. But then on top of that, you also need to have a realm bigger than the Abbasids as well. So there are definitely some more requirements for this one. Again, it's not too difficult, I don't think, but it is definitely harder than the previous 2 in the same kind of vein of finishing off the struggle. But again, I think this will make a fun campaign. and I don't think it'd be too difficult. Just kind of work your way towards it, building up a big realm. And then the next hard achievement is Shia Reborn. They found a new caliphate foundation as part of the Abbasid humiliation ending in the Iranian struggle. This is basically the flip side of the one above. This is where you basically go in and then you found the Shia religion on top of the Abbasids and, found a new religion and then try spreading it. The requirements aren't that much different to the one above. You do need to obviously sway towards the religious side, so you need to be Paragon of Virtue, you need to have some traits, or have a certain amount of counters with the Ashari religion, and then you also need to either own a holy site or certain specific holy buildings in order to enact this ending. It does also, like the previous one, require you to have more land than the Caliph does have, but again, you're kind of working towards that with either of these Abbasid humiliation requirements. So you can either go holy with it, with the Shia Reborn, or you can go down the route of dominating the Caliph with the previous achievement. This is one where I think we're getting to the point with these where it's going to be a little bit annoying. If you are a achievement hunter, you've basically got to finish the struggle 4 different times. That's not too bad, but I think it is a little bit annoying that you have to do 4 different full complete struggles in order to get the achievements if you are an achievement hunter. Obviously, if you're not, it's not too bad. You can just pick whichever one you want. I think these are quite good. I've given you an idea of what kind of campaign you want to play in the new DLC. You can pick one of these achievements, and then this will give you like a broad idea of what to head towards. I think they are good for that. If you are an achievement hunter, a little bit more annoying, let's be honest. And then we're on to the second to last one for hard, and that is Mulct Them Dry. Loot the 4 illustrious tier Vizier extravagance modifiers from your Vizier. This was covered in a previous dev diary, which I have covered on the channel. This is basically allowing the Vizier to build up their stockpile of cash, and then you go in and say, hey, thank you very much. You give me that cash, and it will basically loot their illustrious tier modifier, and then they'll reset to, I think they go to the lowest value. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I think they go back to the lowest value, and then you've got to do it again, basically 4 times. 3 more times. I believe this is on any Vizier. It mustn't be on the same Vizier. It's going to be hard enough, I think, to get all the way up to Illustrious, because obviously it's going to be very hard for one Vizier, I would imagine, to get all the way up to Illustrious, reset, and then go back up and down 3 more times. So I think it's just loot 4 Illustrious tier modifiers during your campaign, which obviously it's going to be a little bit difficult to get all the way up to Illustrious, but again, it's not too difficult, I don't think. If you're playing a successful campaign around here, I would imagine this one isn't going to be too bad to finish. And then Fiscal Responsibility, this is the last of the hard achievements. Fill 5 tax collector slots with excellent aptitude characters. This one doesn't seem that hard. Again, correct me in the comments, because again, as you're playing through the campaign, you do need to unlock up to 5 tax collectors, which I guess is some of the difficulty. You don't start with 5, you do have to build up to having 5. I suppose that is some of the difficulty. Now, getting 5 excellent aptitude characters is kind of just up to chance, really. I guess it depends how often you do see excellent aptitude. Obviously, their different stats and traits take effect in that. And I guess trying to find 5 could be difficult. But again, this one's more down to almost chance, I think, than trying to, have a long-term plan to try do this. You've basically got to get up to that 5 slots and then just find 5 excellent people. So I don't think this one's too difficult. I think it should be relatively easy to complete. It is hard, I guess, because you do have to do those requirements, so it's not as easy as some of the other ones. But I think this is probably easier than finishing a struggle, which is under easy, so you'll have to let me know in the comments. And then we're on to the last 2, which are the last very hard ones. And the Umayyads strike back. Starting as a member of the Umayyad dynasty, hold the Empire of Arabia and the Sunni Caliphate. So this is obviously starting in Iberia, basically, and you've got to work your way across the north of Africa, take over the whole Empire of Arabia, and then the Sunni Caliphate, which I believe is basically the Duchy of Baghdad, if I remember correctly. And yeah, that's it for the achievement. Now, this is obviously very hard because you've got to go across Africa, you've got to take this land. It'll be interesting to see in the patch whether the Abbasids splinter as much as they do generally before this patch came out, because if they splinter as they do usually, yeah, this one's difficult, but again, it's not crazy difficult. It is more of just playing through the game as much as you can, obviously playing well and taking the land here. Now, obviously, if they stay strong, it is going to be a problem because they're going to have so many troops and things like that, and you're not going to be able to get that many allies that are that powerful as the Umayyads, unless maybe you convert. You could convert to Orthodox and try bring in the Byzantines, I guess, and try to do it that way. It'd be an interesting way of doing it, but yeah, I guess it is very hard. There's a lot of things you've got to get right to get this one completed, but I don't think it's too crazy, to be honest. And then Darius Revenge. This is the one I'm actually going to be doing on the channel. This is going to be our next long-form campaign, and it's going to be starting in the next couple of days. So if you're interested in watching that, hit like, subscribe to the channel, and you'll get all of that content coming in the near future. As a character of Iranian heritage, hold the Empire of Persia, the Kingdom of Thessalonica, and the Kingdom of Hellas. So yeah, you've got to have the Empire of Persia, and then the two kingdoms, which are basically the south and east of Greece. So you're going up against the Byzantines, and as we know, the Byzantines these days don't tend to fracture that much, and you're going to have a hard time, I think, kind of going after them. Although, if you form the Empire of Persia, I would imagine you can get pretty powerful, but I suppose you're also kind of defending your homelands, and then you've got to take these two kingdoms and do that quite well. I suppose, actually, if you had low unity, you have infinite invasions, don't you? So maybe that would be easier, because you can just invade for one kingdom and then invade for the other one and just kind of finish the achievement and then hope it doesn't all fracture in the meantime. But that could be one way of doing it, actually, that I didn't think of until right now. Let me know what you think in the comments, how would be the best way to finish that one. That is the campaign we're going to be doing next, Darius's Revenge, and seeing if we can complete these in a campaign. But we'll also work through the other achievements as well, because we'll probably do a struggle during that, and then obviously some of the ones that you can kind of complete as you play we'll work through as well. But anyway, that is the video for today. Like I said, just a quick one going through the achievements, what I thought about them, and as I said, in the comments down below, let me know what you think of them, which ones you're going to work towards, how you've managed to do it. Maybe you finished some of them already. It has been out for, what, 12 hours? So I'm sure some of you already have. I know what we like. We're always playing Crusader Kings when DLC comes out. But anyway, we'll leave it there for today. My next video is going to be a breakdown of the patch notes, and then some other stuff coming as well soon. So as I said before, subscribe, like the video. I'll see you in the next one.